Montgomery. Rufus. Karl Siegfried Straube was a German church musician, organist, and choral conductor, famous above all for championing the abundant organ music of Max Reger. He studied organ under Heinrich Reimann in Berlin from 1894 to 1897 and became a widely respected concert organist. In 1897 he was appointed organist at Willibrode Dom in Wesel, but left in 1902 to take up the position of organist at the Thomaskirche in Leipzig. He gave up his career as a performer relatively early in order to pursue teaching and publishing, particularly the music of Reger, though he still kept his position at the Thomaskirche. He was also appointed to the organ faculty of the Leipzig Conservatorium in 1907, receiving the title of Royal Professor in 1908. This most honorary title, which is seemingly astounding for a professor of only 1 year, reflects more on Straube's cleverness than his merit. Since he was offered a job in Berlin, he wrote a letter of requests to his superior. These subtle demands were cleverly wrought. He, among other things, requested a raise from 1,000 marks to 5,000 marks and also requested that the Wilhelm Sauer organ of 1888 at the Thomaskirche be enlarged. He succeeded Gustav Schreck as cantor of the Thomasschule and director of the Thomaskirche in 1918 and held the post until 1939. His contribution to the history of organ performance was chiefly through his advocacy of the music of Max Reger and his many students. Having received the older tradition of organ playing from Reimann in Berlin, Straube revolutionized his technique in collaboration with the orchestral-style instruments of Sauer. This allowed him to interpret music by using the full resources of Sauer's massive instruments, with the stop-change mechanisms and expressive divisions. However, he also performed on organs that contained no such devices as well and simply adapted the music accordingly. Straube was a complicated man and changed opinions many times throughout his life, having always been the intellectual sort and considering himself more of an historian than a musician. He edited editions of works by old masters, and also editions of works by Reger. However, Straube compiled these editions with the approval of the composer, regarding his many subjective editorial markings. This is exactly how he performed and advocated his editions. He stated that his editorial markings were not dry thoughts made at his desk, but rather inspirations that came to him at the instrument itself. Many reviews comment on his obsession with the clarity of contrapuntal voices and variety and color of his creative registrations. Straube is a conundrum, and the validity of his editions has been brought into question in most recent Reger scholarship. It has been presupposed by many that later in life he advocated the principles of the Orgelbewegung movement, which looked to an historically pure interpretation of old music and also looked back to the organ-building principles of the Baroque period. Nevertheless, Straube never advocated for this movement, though he did move away from the ideals of the Romantic organ to what the Germans called a compromise organ. This is demonstrated by his being responsible for the rebuild of the Leipzig Conservatory Sauer organ in 1927. However, he went back and forth between supporting the eclectic organ and the romantic organ and certainly did not want Reger to fall out of fashion. During this extreme shift in the organ world, Reger's music was not like that of Wagner, as he looked back to Bach for his highly contrapuntal writing. This is precisely why Straube stated that even Reger can be performed on an organ lacking orchestral colors and the ability to employ these subtle color changes. He made this statement in the preface to his final Reger edition of Ein Festberg ist Unser Gott op. 27.